So we have Chirag. So we had some fantastic sessions from Chirag and Subhojit today, and we also have Amit. So small introduction about everyone. I think I'll hand it over to. So Chirag is the IT transformation consultant from Delhi EMC. Subhojit is the lead architect, primarily on the block side for IBM. And Amit Shukla, he's the head of cloud infrastructure and security design solutions for Tata Consultancy Services. And the topic for the day today, it's a little different from what we had yesterday. Yesterday it was about looking from the developer's point of view, looking at next-gen technologies and related aspects. Today it's more about the trends in the data center and what are the customers demanding. It's coming from the customer side, looking at from the other perspective. So before we start off, I would request Subhojit, Amit, and Chirag to give a brief introduction about themselves.
Sure, thanks. So I work from the IBM software development labs in Pune as a development architect, and we primarily work on the IBM Spectrum virtualized products. These are all block storage products. It's network virtualization and storage controllers and software-defined storage. These are the areas that I really, that's what we're working on. And what we do in the lab, I've been there in IBM for 7 years. Prior to that, I was there in Veritas and Brocade, and all the while in block storage. So right now, what we are really sort of burning our night lamps, night oil, is on building all flash storage interconnects over Ethernet, and be it ISER or NVMe over fabrics. So that's what really is what I'm working on right now.
Thanks, Subhajit. I think Udayan has already introduced. So I am part of Tata Consultancy Services and looking into the storage cloud infrastructure design for customers. Primarily it is for one of the vertical, which is high-tech vertical. And apart from that, I am owning some vendor-driven solutions lab, which are a part of our GTM strategy. And with that, I work very closely with the partners like you and with our vertical teams who are actually working on different solutions, software solutions, and try to get the strategy defined for cloud or on-premise for our customers. So that's what pretty much my role is. I come with 20 years of experience, rather more than 20 years of experience, so quite old. And it has been 10 years in TCS, and previous to the TCS, I was in CMC and worked some time in EMC as well.
I think this is working, yeah?
Yeah, I think we have.
Hi, this is Chirag here, and I'm part of Dell EMC IT transformation service delivery. So, been working with Dell EMC in various roles for last 7 years. The current role that I'm playing is really exciting because I've been talking to customers on their cloud strategy, talking to them around how cloud and big data analytics is going to be implemented in their environment. What is the value proposition that the customer is going to get out of that, and how I tie that back into various solutions that Dell EMC has. So that's the, I think, passion that I'm driving right now, and it's really exciting times. And the other thing that I'm also passionate about is business continuity management. So I work with a lot of global customers looking at their business continuity processes, looking at their business impact analysis on all the applications that are happening, how you can tier those applications into various RPO, RTO requirements, how do they build their process documentations around various BCM processes, how this BCM process gets integrated with their enterprise risk management solutions. And this is really a vendor agnostic solution and the service delivery that We do very much like somebody Wipro or Cognizant or TCS would be doing. So irrespective of what technology customer is carrying, I look at the processes, disaster recovery and BCM processes, and how those get integrated into their ISO audit, GRC and all those stuff. So yep, that's what is all about me.
Thanks a lot. So just to set the expectations, why it will help is from a developer's point of view, you start understanding what the session from today, what are the challenges which the end customers are facing, and you should also be thinking from that perspective, what are the kind of solutions that you can develop or help in architecting, which will help in addressing those challenges. So that's what the objective which you want to achieve out of today's session. And it has been a fantastic sessions throughout the day. We started off with edge kind of technologies, in Chirag talking about blockchain, and we had looking into NVMe, F, and then machine learning, and then SAFe. A lot of sessions, interesting sessions. Now, what I would come back and ask from Chirag. So Chirag, from your perspective, when you look at what are the two main challenges which you see your customers, they are really facing and they are asking for solutions? And I mean, we are still in the stage, we still have to come back and provide them a solution. So what are the two topmost priority things which you think are really burning hot issues?
Yeah, very relevant question, I think, because I think most of the time, I think almost 50% of my time I spend in front of customers, understanding their challenges, looking at how we can solve those challenges. I would like to, I mean, when you say two, it's very difficult to quantify. But let me start off with saying that every customer today, when I go to, whether, and this is across the geography, specifically in APJ, because I've been working with a lot of customers in Australia, Singapore, as well as in India. And this is a problem which is across, that every customer is today struggling with what do I do with my legacy infrastructure and how do I move to the digital world. And every customer has this conversation that, hey, you're talking about digitization, you're talking about native cloud apps, and you're talking about all those cool stuff around IoT and all those things, which needs really new infrastructure, new development cycles, new trainings for the team and all those stuff, right? And there's a paradigm shift. So the question really is, how do I shift? And of course, there's no, always when you go to the customer, there's always a constraint on budget. So they don't have unlimited budgets to invest into this new cool technology. So I think that's the key thing that I've been hearing, and we have been helping. So in today's presentation, the way I was talking, that we are helping customers to see how they can cut down on their cost today, look at building operational efficiency, and use those resources, whether it is people, process, or the budgets, into digitization, right? So that's one way of doing it. And I think I had some interesting conversation with folks out there, that how we put this strategy in place for the customers, right? The second thing that I believe that a lot of customers are today struggling from the IT transformation perspective. I'm not talking about digitization, but IT transformation perspective. Everybody is struggling today is how I can provision stuff faster, quicker, how I can be more agile. So because internal IT is feeling threat from Amazon, Google, and Azure kind of environment. So every customer I go to, they want to know how I can do stuff faster and in much efficient way, and what value that he is going to be able to provide to his customers that he is serving. So I think these are the broad two topics where each and every customer, whether it is in Bangalore, Mumbai, Singapore, Sydney, I think I've been hearing these things.
Right, thank you. Amit, from your perspective, when you interact, so looking at Chirag talked about digital, and then from the other side, and what about your perspective?
So
primarily, if I look into the customer challenges, what Chirag mentioned are the two basic challenges which every customer is looking into. Further drilling it down, see, today the IT is not driven by CIO budgets. It is primarily coming from the CFOs. Now, the way it is being driven is the cost optimization. It's not that technology is actually asking for you to refresh your infrastructure. It is how do you optimize your cost with the current or the refreshed infrastructure is what customers are facing challenge. Now, with the technology coming into picture, they are little confused. Some of the customers which I have been talking to, since it is a storage conference, they are asking for storage as a service model. Now, if I tell them the storage as a service model, you go to AWS or Azure, then they start asking this question, even if I move my data to the AWS, my applications are at on-premise or vice versa. Okay? There are certain times when customers want, or because of the security or compliance reasons, their data has to be in the on-premise and the application they are moving into the AWS. In that case, they are actually creating a distance between their application and our workload and the storage. Now, at the other hand, if we look into the decade back when storage was inside the server, we took it outside, and people like you created such a huge and such a great storage infrastructure which customers started using. The application, see, primarily for application, the storage was a secondary storage. The application used to interact with the primary storage, which in that case was memory. With the advent of newer technologies and faster channels, the application's latency or the application's reach to the secondary storage got shortened. Now, with hyperconverged coming into the picture, the entire the community started talking about the application-centric infrastructure, wherein the application is driving the infrastructure, not that application is separate and infrastructure is separate. With cloud coming into picture, now again the customer is confused. I am creating a distance between application and the storage. So these kind of conversations are on with the customers. Now coming back to my original, one case when I was talking to a customer, and majority of the RFPs which I am working on, customers are asking for storage as a service. Now what they meant with the storage as a service, from the cloud or from the digital perspective, is how per GB cost of storage can be. Now when you further drill it down, either you go to AWS or you create certain investments or do certain investments on premise, or finally it comes down how can the partners like us or the partners like EMC NetApp can provide per GB cost of the storage, as it is as good as giving them EMI for the storage. Okay. Now these are kind of challenges they are facing, and when it comes to the moving the applications, so that is one challenge. Another challenge is when it comes to the moving the applications or even data. So storage vendors have created good infrastructure, be it NetApp, EMC, something called Data Fabric somebody has created Viper solution, SVC solution, by which you can move your data from cloud to on-prem to cloud very easily, moving your storage closer to the public cloud or into the public cloud. All those facilities we are able to provide. But when it comes to the real customer challenge, how do I move my workloads across the clouds? The biggest challenge they are facing. So these are some of the burning topics customers are facing these days. And then whether it has to be on-premise, which application, so all these application classifications are again the biggest challenge customers are facing these days.
Quite insightful, both from Chirag and Amit. So, Vajit, you want to talk about from what do you see when looking at block storage and how some of the customers, what are the kind of challenges which you see they are asking from your perspective to be fulfilled as well, or overall also?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So, I spend a lesser amount of time directly with customers. I'm more into the development side of things, but we do spend some time with customers, and what essentially we see are requirements coming from various teams which interface with customers. And some of the primary trends that we are observing. So, encryption of storage, data at rest, data in flight. Obviously, this is kind of stemming from the security requirements and security breaches that have been happening of late. We have been seeing a definitive shift of customers who, there are new workloads that have emerged which are using data storage. For example, Hadoop. It was not a kind of workload that you would have, maybe 15 years back. Primary workloads that would be accessing storage would be online transaction processing like airlines or banks and stuff, right? So as a result of it, they want fast access to storage, higher, fatter bandwidths, lower latencies, things like that, essentially. And they are very cost sensitive customers. So, for example, if earlier customers were very willing to spend lots of money on fiber channel infrastructure, today's customers are not necessarily willing to do that. They want converged networks, they want lower cost ports, higher density switches, they want storage that is more compact, the same storage located in a denser storage essentially. So all of these things are essentially translating to cheaper, greener storage, which is faster. So these are sort of trends that we are observing, and of course, a lot of this is met by things like Flash and Ethernet and stuff, which I talked about earlier in the day. But when it comes to some of the infrastructure that is used to cater to this, a lot of it is not necessarily as cheap as it should be even today, although the costs are rapidly coming down. So as a result of it, people want more efficient usage of this technology. And that essentially leads to things like data deduplication, compression. These kind of requirements are kind of coming through. So, this is the general trend that we are observing. And one more thing that we are seeing is, and of course, block storage, though, still caters primarily to the OLTP or, the mission critical kind of data. Object store or file storage, would cater to more, sort of temporary data or, storage of photographs and stuff like that. There, we are seeing a lot of, we are seeing the need to scale, significant need to scale. Can block storages scale to that level? We are seeing that kind of, requirements coming in as well. We need to see. That's the kind of requirements that we are really seeing.
Thanks a lot, Chirag. Sorry, Subhajit. We are also open to questions coming from audience. Anyone who wants to think about their products or how they are thinking it fits into the entire end customer scenarios, you can have your questions coming across as well. Check.
So you were mentioning about, the bigger challenge is about how to handle workloads. So what's your view on the orchestration frameworks that are coming in wherein, which is automating the process of moving, compute to data and stuff like that?
I couldn't understand. You are saying compute to data means?
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
So orchestration is one way we are achieving, but when it comes to the, the inter-cloud movements, workload movements, there has been a customer who has adopted, the AWS in a big way, okay? And after 2 years down the line, he understood that the AWS cost, which he is paying, is far more than what is there at the on-premise. By the time he wanted to come back to the on-premise, there was absolutely no orchestration, no way he could have done that. Now these kind of challenges are coming into picture. I can move, so the way private cloud or hybrid cloud evolution is happening, customers are going into a POC mode, let's say open source version of the OpenStack. Once they get maturity and get the understanding of the private cloud and the kind of benefits they are able to get out of OpenStack, they either adopt some, the OpenStack distro version, or let's say Red Hat OpenStack Cloud, or they would go to the VMware SDDC kind of environments. Okay.
Right, and I've seen continue the same point. I've seen that new companies and storage companies are coming up with softwares which can send their data inter-cloud. Like there is one company known as Minio, so they can.
So you are right. So there are solutions coming into picture, but still there is no, there is no valid and in toto which you can say that your workload can be moved seamlessly from AWS to Azure to on-premise.
Right.
So these kind of challenges still are facing. Definitely there are work which is going on, and if I know any company which you are telling me, if I haven't come across, it would be great for my customers, because I have been facing day in, day out this challenge.
Okay, right.
See, data movement is far easier today with the storage vendors coming into picture and doing a lot of investment. But when it comes to the workload movement, it is extremely difficult even as of today. When it comes to the, let's say, backup moment, I took a backup on AWS. After some time, I want it to move to on-premise or Azure. It is extremely difficult.
Thank you.
So keep focusing, asking your questions to get more and more challenges from these stalwarts, because I am very sure the more the challenges you try to understand, the better solutions you will be able to get for them from the customer perspective. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. With all this movement to cloud, right? It's all becoming commoditized and cheaper cost, like you mentioned, right? People are asking for cheaper storage. So obviously the native data centers are not going away, right? But the growth is happening in cloud. So what kind of changes you're seeing in the requirements from customers in terms of native data centers to make it cheaper? I mean, are they looking for more features and more robustness and those kind of things, or they're more cost-centric and more cheaper technology to be brought in?
So I'll just talk about one or two things that we have observed. So, for example, today when you have a disaster recovery solution, right? You have a storage controller locally, you have a storage controller 100 kilometers away or hundreds of kilometers away, and it's the same storage controller, the hardware storage controller. So two different data centers are required, same administration mechanism. It's expensive, right? And you essentially do your storage data replication across these sites. So one of the things that we are seeing is, for example, customers saying that, hey, I want to do disaster recovery, but I want to have an on-premise hardware storage controller because that gives me all the performance and stuff. But I want to do disaster recovery across over to the cloud. So I want to store my data in Amazon or Software or Azure or whatever. So for various reasons. I mean, it obviously is cheaper. There is compute nodes that can be brought on when necessary. The application images can be kept there and stuff like that. Now, again, orchestration, the stuff that you were talking about, is it possible to orchestrate? So when you do have a disaster, you actually really need to fail over stuff from one side to the other. So there is a very specific disaster, workflow that happens when there is a disaster, or even if you want to do a upgrade on one side, for example, right? You want to continue to have the applications running. So there are companies which, IBM GTS team has got sort of a handle over how to, kind of orchestrate this workflow. So that's one example of the kind of things that we are seeing people are asking for, right? One more area that I think, we did see, we are seeing some kind of sort of requests on is, hey, I have a cloud, storage, and I have on-premise storage. Now, the round-trip time latency between the between the cloud and the local storage is very high. So I want to be able to cache the relevant data on the local premises, but the actual storage is there on the cloud. So I really don't want to have the latency associated with the cloud in order to try and directly access the cloud, but I really want to use the cloud for storing my data. So these are two things that we are seeing, sort of requirements for. Do you have anything that you want to?
Yeah, I think it's still it all is all about economics. Okay, And there are certain applications, certain workloads, cloud may work. If you, I just mentioned one customer wherein he moved to AWS and all of a sudden he felt that the cost whatsoever he is incurring on AWS is far higher after 2 years than what he was getting into their on-premise. So unless you do the proper, the understanding of the application, which application can give you positive ROI in what time, what is your refresh cycle of your infrastructure. Without doing all those studies, if we go ahead and talk about cloud, it's not going to work. And to me, and that's what I was talking to Chirag as well, see, on-premise is not going to get killed in near at least 5 to 6 years down the line. It has to be there, it has to be a combination. There has been a lot of customers who have been moving their applications on the public cloud, but still they are using their on-premise, and hence, even if you see the likes of Gartner or Forrester, they have been talking that the hybrid cloud is what customers are looking at. It is not that the only public cloud.
So I think I want to add a couple of things from what one is, as he rightly said, most of the customers are feeling the pain once they scale up into Amazon. If you're having a small workloads, that's fine, but as you start using more and more, the cost, and there are some studies done, and a lot of customers also talk to us saying that today I'm stuck in Amazon because it's no longer cheaper, because the workloads are growing day by day and there's no control over how much you're going to use and how is it getting billed and all those questions, that operational questions that you have. So, and this is universal problem that most of these customers are facing. So as you rightly said, you need to have the right workloads to go into cloud, right? And to add to what you were asking, but is how much is going to private, how much is going public? I think the most important thing that we need to understand is public is not still reliable, right? Every week or every 15 days you find that either Amazon or Google had some downtime issues. So critical workloads are still remaining in on-premise and or in some kind of managed environments, which could be in some secure and highly available data centers, which is not really in your premise, but it's as if in a co-location. So that workloads are still remaining on-premise or managed services kind of things. What is going on cloud is mainly your non-critical applications, your test and developments, workloads, and all those kind of scenarios. Now, the challenge here is another challenge that I think we all experts on industry experts should be looking at. When I'm doing a test and dev on cloud, and when I move that workloads into my data center because it's going production, there are a whole bunch of challenges on protocols, testings, your performance issues, and all those. So I think that's another area of thought process I think we as all storage experts should be start thinking around.
Yeah, that's what the workload movement is a challenge.
So we'll take the last one question for the day, because we have a hard stop at 5:30 today, and Chirag has to also leave. So I can blame it on him. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
This question is about regarding this protocol development. We have seen that there is a rapid protocol development on so many things like open source and something. What about those customers? Those are actually still really using the mainframe and FICON protocol, because as of now, all airlines, oil refineries, and decision support systems where we worked, still they are happy with the Jet series, but they are looking for some sort of economic kind of storage. So most of the storage announcement for the last couple of years, software-defined storage, so many companies are coming, Pure, Nimble, but where is that development from the mainframe side? Means the protocol side for the FICON specifically. So
are you saying that
what is the future actually, to be honest?
FICON adapting to that new futuristic stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Because still it's they are planning to move some software-defined storage or something where they can reduce the operation cost. But
see, this is a question on the mainframe side, and it's a FICON storage protocol which I personally don't have much knowledge about. So I don't want to even touch why they are not doing stuff, but I know for sure that IBM Z Systems group has now got Linux running on their machines.
Yeah, powered Linux.
Whether they're moving to software-defined storage model or not on top of Icon
Yep.
is something that I don't really have knowledge about. But if there is so much of a demand, I'm pretty sure they would be doing something about it. I personally don't know what
So
they
I
are
think
really doing.
I'll add one point to it. When we do a strategy discussion with a lot of such customers who are running mainframes and Unix and all those workloads, I think they are still happy, as you rightly said, running those codes on that. They don't want to move it out. And I think what we, as a strategy perspective, we tell them that look at your 90% workload where you can do optimization. Leave about this, because what you're talking about is 10% or 5% of the problem of the organization, versus if you look at your x86 environment. So we try to, you can't solve all the problems, right? So as a strategy perspective, you say, let's look at 90% of the problems that you can solve, optimize, cloud native and cloudified your architecture, but definitely we don't touch those applications as of now. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Chirag, Amit, and Subhojit. I really appreciate. I'm sorry. He is going to miss his flight otherwise.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
Would appreciate if you all can give a very loud clap for the participants and all the speakers we had today. Thank you. Thanks, the panel members.
Yeah, moving. Stop. Okay. It's Kishore from Delhi MC. Okay, no? Not here. Stop. Okay, it's someone from Seagate, Goma Rajan.
I just changed my name.
Is it? No, he's not imitating. You can tell him you missed out.
I just changed my name to submission is more than participant.
Okay, Radhika from IBM.
It's okay. It's not I think
It's Latha from NetApp.
please turn this way.
Thanks a lot, everyone. That's okay. Thank you.